Well, good morning. So, it's a few days after I freaking released what I thought was just going to be a blockbuster. I mean, putting these things together, it's not easy. I'm not getting paid for this. I don't get money for this. I get a little bit through Substack. A few through Substack. Is it two? Yeah. So, all my knowledge and all my experience that I've gained over, 62 years, 50 of them living overseas, traveling internationally, investigating internationally since 1983, previously just living, having experiences where I know what it was like to be in Asia before it's the Asia that it is now, even the Asia before the 80s. Because what happened is after Vietnam, a lot of Vietnam vets went to Thailand and they said, hey man, we're going to stay here and have fun. And people learned about Thailand and how it was a nice place to live in, but now it's a shit place to live. Totally. Why? Because it got screwed. And it's wild. One of the best places if you want to go move somewhere is actually Japan, in a weird way. But shoot, I've been trying to get Jan to move in the country in Japan. I'm thinking about buying some property in Japan. Why? Because it's so damn cheap. A beautiful, beautiful homes going for $30,000, $40,000. But you got to also understand the thing about Japan. See, this is the thing about not traveling through areas and what I used to call, we all used to call it parachute journalism. This is the crap you used to see during the 80s, when Peter Jennings and Tom Brokaw and Dan Rather would suddenly pop up in a country and you're like, what the fuck are these assholes doing here? They have no idea what it is. They've got, their show producers like, here, Dan, read this, yeah. And you got to read this information here for your broadcast, Yeah. That's not journalism. But that's what people are doing now because that's the model that they have in order to do the broadcasting and the reporting here on YouTube. So what's happened is YouTube is now really emulating what was being delivered in the traditional corporate media before. But at least back then there was an essence of class and quality. And that essence of class and quality went into the actual reporting, whether it came out or not. It's kind of like Joe Galloway, my buddy Joe Galloway. If you don't know who Joe Galloway is, I'm not going to pop up a photograph because I'm not putting any time into this stuff now. I'm starting to realize that the more time I put into something, the less return I get back on it. It's wild. Like right up the road, barely a mile, just over a mile is this new channel, Homesteady. I'm watching this show. I know. I went over and drove over there. Brought him some salmon. Brought him canned salmon, some freaking fillets of salmon, reds. I'm going to see how he reacts. See, it's a test. When somebody in Alaska comes over and brings you a welcome to the neighborhood gift, how you respond to that will be very indicative of how we see you as to why you're here. Are you here because you want to be an Alaskan? Or are you here because you're another fucking carpetbagger who's come into the state in order to take advantage of this state? This is a long tradition, by the way. It actually started in the 1800s when everybody started coming up here. Not right after the sale, from the Russians to the United States. It actually took a while. It didn't start happening until the gold rush. And that's when you have all these carpetbaggers coming up here. They didn't come here for Alaska. They didn't come here to be Alaskan. They came here to take the gold and leave. And that's not okay with me. I get pissed. Because I came up here. I wanted to be an Alaskan. I wanted to check out what it was like to be an Alaskan. And I knew that I wasn't ready to be an Alaskan back in 1990 when I came up here. But also I was dealing with stuff. I had lost my wife. I had lost my child in the war within 6 months of what it was for me to be here in 1990. And that brings me to something very important, which is I fucking spent a lot of my life fighting for this country, defending this country. They talk about how many people go in the military, right? How many people go into paramilitary? Because actually, during the 80s, the ones who were doing the heaviest fighting was paramilitary. These are guys who are former military, traditional military, regular military. Even Delta Force is, in my view, regular military. But when you go into the world of paramilitary and you're fighting because you know what's up, you know what's wrong, and you go and do it. It's the same mentality that I have right now and have had since I started this channel, which I see what's wrong, I know what's wrong, and I'm going to go fight. I'm not going to go fight with guns the way I did before, and explosives, and fighting commies. And now, it's beyond a shadow of doubt that the commies were just the same as us and being used by these very same people who have stolen our world. You know, these are the freaking... And even us, oh, well, it's Teal. No, it's not fucking Teal. It's not Elon Musk. These people are just actors. That's why they do these weird things that you're seeing. And nobody's even looking at that. You know, Jan talks about the presidents and the kings, but he doesn't talk about Teal. He doesn't talk. He still thinks that Teal is like one of the people who is actually doing the direction. No, Teal got in because he got a bit of the money. He's still in the money mode. The people way above him are in the power mode. They're the ones who print the money that he gets, or creates the numbers that appear in his bank account that he can use. He's the front man. In the same way that George H.W. Bush's father, you know, Georgie Jr.'s grandfather, was the front man for the Rockefellers during the sales. That was the deal they had with him. You're the front man. Somebody's head's going to roll, like you're going to get accused of treason and they're going to execute you. Well, you're the guy that goes down, not the Rockefellers. But who's above the Rockefellers? See, this is the thing. This is the information I've been trying to get across to you and bring to you so that you can make wise action. This is the reason I get people like Jan on, Jack Maxey, Ian Burlingame, G. Edward Griffin. I looked at the numbers. Damn. What? It's not even 200 yet, and it's freaking Tuesday. It's not even 200 viewers. So that's for two reasons. We know flat out. You hear it in the conversation between me and Griffin. Which is, yeah, we're fucking censored. If you don't actively share the channel and tell your friends, hey, subscribe over here. Because when you subscribe over here, more people actually get it. You're not paying for it. I'm not asking you to subscribe and become like a channel member. I'm going to start going and doing that over on my homestead channel, you know, 5 Acres and a Moose. That's where I'm going to put more of my energy in. Because I do that every day. I'm just doing it. I'm just going to set up the camera. I'm not even really going to even teach the way I was going to do it before. I will start teaching for people who actually pay me money so I can show them the secrets. You know, like Homesteady, Austin Martin over there in Homesteady. He hasn't called me. I could save him a lot of pain. Pain revolving around mosquitoes. How did I learn about mosquitoes? Oh, yeah. 2002. I'll tell you a little story. So, I was here in 1990, 91. I actually knew real homesteaders, real ones. You know, people who came up here in the 30s. People who came up here during World War II. You know, like Dick Prenicky, everybody loves watching PBS. That's what brought a lot of people up here. They watch PBS and Dick Prenicky and, you know, One Man in the Wilderness, A Man in the Wilderness. And he's like, I've flown out to his cabin. His cabin's over there in Lake Clark, Twin Lakes. Flown out there. Great freaking lake trout fishing. Right? Only way you can get to it is on a float plane. So you have to fly a float plane in there to get there or have somebody take you out there in a float plane. But I've met these people. I met these people back in 1990, 91. When I came back in 2012, a lot of them are gone. The last one was Jack Epperson. Jack Epperson was a P-38 pilot in World War II. I knew Brother Isaiah. Brother Isaiah's dead. Jack Epperson's dead. Jack Epperson died 2 years after I got back in 2012. I wanted to go and see him, but I realized he wouldn't even recognize me because, you know, when you get to that point, your brain... That's why it was so impressive when I was talking to Griffin. Shit, he's fucking 86. Is he 86 now? No, he'd be, what, 84? 84 years old. Totally lucid. We had a great conversation. Not even past 200 views. It's fucking Tuesday. Yeah. So that tells me where the world's going. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. I'm fucking done. I'm going to have fun. If the world's going to continue to go to hell in a handbasket, then fucking have fun, right? Why should I be fucking working my ass off trying to get information to you while somebody else can just be sitting there and make an act like I am the smartest man in the world? Listen to me. I know about what's happening here. I know what's happening about there. I know the history of it. Well, yeah, so do I too, man. But I actually lived it. I lived Vietnam. I saw Vietnam as a kid. I saw what was happening. It affected me to the point that when I was working in Silicon Valley, I know Silicon Valley, not because I read about Silicon Valley, it's because I fucking lived Silicon Valley. I saw the first bust. I pulled my freaking stock options out. Guess what? I didn't get reamed like the other guys who were like praying that the stock was going to come back up. It never came back up. They lost everything. Yeah, 2000. Guess what's going to be the new one? Starts with an A, ends with an I. You think it's going to be all so great. You're going to have everything relying on it. Once it's totally relied on it, then that'll be the worst thing. Because remember what these fuckers do. They freaking kill you and steal from you and they profit from you through your pain. That's part of their evil plans. Remember, this is the synagogue of Satan. But the synagogue of Satan is not some Jewish kind of thing, blah, 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 blah. No, it's much higher and older. It's older than fucking even the Jewish religion. Oh, but don't tell the Jews that. Because they think they're the chosen ones. But you think they're the only chosen ones? You know, if you've lived around the world, you've met a lot of people. And a lot of people think they're the chosen ones too. How many chosen ones can there be? Oh, man. What a fucking world. So, yeah. This is my little bitch here. I'm going to fucking bitch about things because I'm fucking not impressed. It's all on you, people. You fucking sit, you made your money, maybe you're living in Florida, you're living in New Mexico and Arizona. You think you're fine. Oh, yeah. But you're not paying attention to the stuff that the cops aren't telling you. They're telling me. Or the media. They're telling me. I get all this shit. I get it all. That's why I know all this stuff. Why do I have to deal with this crap? Because if I turned it all off, I wouldn't know. And you know what? When the nuke comes, if the nuke comes, I hope it's a direct hit because then I really won't know. Because that's where we're at right now. There is no redemption. Because actually, look at yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell me what you did. What did you do? What did you do for the fight? What did you do? I bet you can't say a shit. What you will say is, well, you know, I had to feed my kids. Oh, I had to pay the bills. I had to make sure we had a roof over our house. Yeah, you're telling me this while you live in Malibu, or you live in freaking, Cocoa Beach, or you're living in freaking Tampa, and you're enjoying the sun. You go and you walk, and you see the birds play. Yeah, I do that too. I walk in the sun and I look. But you know what? Like Teal, except before Teal, even before it was even a colonel, even before Teal knew that he had to run to freaking Argentina, I knew that Teal had to run to Argentina. I didn't know it was Teal himself, but I knew who else was gone. That's why I didn't go to Argentina. Spanish is my first language. The reason the agency recruited me is I'd been in combat for 2 years already before they put me in position. My Spanish, you drop me into a Spanish country. Within 1 month, I have no accent. Within 2 months, I can actually have an accent from an area of that country. That's how good my Spanish is. When you put me in Korea, I have no accent when I speak Korean after freaking 2-3 months. My vocabulary by 4 months is phenomenal. I will have every freaking word in Korean. I'm a polyglot. That's what a real polyglot is. Okay? It's like what New York City, forget that guy. He's good. He's good. He's got the, but this is the thing. It's the understanding of languages. So I said I was going to do a bit about the languages because that's really important, because understanding languages enables you to understand people. Understand English as it's spoken in the United States now and how English was spoken when I was a kid. Where before MTV was an attack on the American people. You don't know that, do you? Yeah, MTV was. What happened? MTV started destroying culture. How did it do it? It made the culture basically Malibu. How do you know? Because when you hear English spoken, it's a California spoken English. It's a California style of speaking. Because by the time it came over to MTV, yeah, started in New York, but the style of English being spoken was Californian. And that's what happened to the eastern United States. There are accents and styles of speaking from the South that I don't hear anymore, and I miss them. People from Kentucky, people from Tennessee, people who left Kentucky and Tennessee and went to the oil business. And through the oil business, we're in Singapore when I was a kid, and we went to school together, and I'd hear them speak. I still heard, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. I can still hear it in my memory. I don't hear it anymore. That's how these people have been winning. And a lot of you don't even know this because you don't have the memories. You're in your 50s. You're in your 40s. God, you're in your 30s and your 20s. You have no idea what you've lost. And part of it is because either your parents or your grandparents didn't fight. That thing that I did in the last, I put that there with George Orwell, which says, "Don't let it happen." That's why the logo up on top, that quote is from that show. That's the quote that Edward Griffin gave me. It's a phenomenal quote. But that quote had to have been listened to 30, 40 years ago. Actually, 50 years ago. See, because once they really took over our currency and really hammered it, that's when they got us. Because by using the currency, which is fake, it's fiat currency. That's why they're pushing right now for the digital currency. Once they do that and they put an implant, this is all fake. This is all stuff we thought was crazy. Hey, no, it's not going to be there. No, they're not going to. Nobody's going to allow that to happen. Putting an implant in your wrist, and then you see some chick fucking walking through the pay aisle in freaking some food store or wherever she was. And all I did was just wipe my wrist. I just wiped my wrist. Yeah, I'm so smart. I'm so in. I'm so hip. Yeah, so hip. That's why I didn't do freaking drugs. I'm so happy I do because I have memories. Yeah, my stalkers from the show Treasure Quest, that's the reason I freaking carry a gun. That's why I will flat out tell you, if Jeremy Whalen or his brother, Jamie, Jaime, he likes to call himself senor, you ever show up around my home, I'll fucking plow you through the head with a fucking 45 slug. How can I say that? Because the only reason you would be here is to cause me bodily harm. We are not friends. We were never friends. I didn't realize how much of a sociopath you were until the assault. Oh, so if you want to, we'll give you entertainment. So next time I will release some of the videos that I got during the deposition. So I got actually the footage that was never shown on the show of the assault and battery, the sucker punch by Jeremy before I put him. Yeah, Jeremy the pedophile and drug and artifact smuggler. Yeah, that fucker. As a friend of mine who was a Marine reminded me, said, man, Jeremy was actually very lucky. Yeah, because, remember that big buoy, that super buoy from SOG Knives? I had it on my hip. If we were back in combat and it was in hand-to-hand, you know where that freaking that buoy would have been within like a few seconds? Yeah, he would be trying to pull it out of his chest. That's how fast it would have been. That brings us to the other idea, what I was talking about, fighting. So while these other fucking reps, or now you got my favorite, one of my SF buddies from the GWAT, what do you call it? Fobbits. Yeah, Fobbits. That's my... When I heard Fobbit for the first time, I was laughing. This is where the freaking little, CIA analysts, that's where they hide out, but then they go home and say, oh man, I was at the FOB, the forward observation base. Yeah, that's where I was. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, FOBits. Yeah. The majority of people during the Cold War were FOBits. And that's now still 25% of the American population. So 25% of the American population was in the military. No, that was fucking World War II. Excuse me. Take 15% during the Cold War were in the military because they couldn't get a job anywhere else. Or they were working for the government because they couldn't get a job anywhere else. Because they couldn't start a business, which is the origins of this country. Independence, individualism, that's what Griffin and I were talking about. That's the importance that you went out and you started your own business and you made something of yourself. And then you joined together, not through paying fucking taxes that are imposed on us. No, they caused the taxes on us in order to steal from us, in order to arm our security guards. That's why I refuse to pay IRS. I do not pay. I have not paid taxes to the federals since 2000. Why? Because it's illegal. I've showed you. I've given you the links. You know what? I'm getting to a point right now, I'm not even putting the links in there. How many of you people, I want you to comment right now and tell me, do you actually read the first comment that I put there? I go and research and I put those links in there for you to follow them so you can do something for your life. You can stop paying fucking taxes. Stop paying federal taxes. Pay your local taxes because those are supposed to go to paying for your roads. And if they aren't, you better be at a city hall meeting. You better be at a county meeting. You better be at a borough meeting. And you better be freaking heard. That means you're standing up. Take back your fucking country. Take back your world. I spent my 20s fighting the fight that everybody else should have been fighting. I didn't see you there. All these guys, oh yeah, man, I was a Green Beret. I was a Navy SEAL. Really? Yeah, well, thank you for the training. I appreciate it. But I would have loved having you in the fucking fire, in the pit with us. I would have loved seeing you in a foxhole with us. I would have loved seeing you getting on the choppers with us. But you know what? A lot of us were Argentinians, Americans who weren't in the regular military anymore, Salvadorans, Hondurans, Guatemalans, Colombians. We were fighting the war that you should have been fighting, and you didn't. In the same way, you're not fighting it now. You're sitting back, you're fucking just enjoying your money because, yeah, you worked hard. You deserve it. Okay. Yeah. Wait until I come and take it from you. I'm going to leave you with a story because it's going to be very important because this is what you can look forward to. Up at the head of the bay, we have what we call old believers. They're Russians. These are the Russians who've always been persecuted, even more so than the Jews in Russia, because they interpret the Orthodox Bible, the Russian Orthodox Bible, in a different manner. And actually, it riled the Tsar. I think it was Peter the Great was the first one that just started going after them, killing them, chasing them with dogs. That's why they don't like dogs. They don't like dogs. Kind of like blacks don't like dogs. Why do you think blacks, on average, except the ones who like, fighting dogs? A lot of blacks don't like dogs. You know why? It's because when the master's going after the slaves, he uses his dogs. And guess what the Tsar did? He sent his, was it the Khazars? No, not the Khazars. The, I forgot. The, God, they're famous. The guys with the sabers and the big fur turbans. He sent these guys, if you know, comment down there. I'll probably remember right after I get off of this, but he sent these guys after with the dogs, hunted them down. But if you got as far away from St. Petersburg, because remember this was before Moscow became the capital of Russia. Where was the capital of Russia? It was St. Petersburg. And I can't believe it. It's freaking June, and I have to start a fire. Crazy, huh? Damn. Now it's roasting. But so he was hunting down these old believers. So these old believers, they make it as far away as they can from St. Petersburg. which is towards Siberia and all kind of stuff. So my friends, I won't say the family name because there's not very many family names amongst these people because they keep on intermarrying. They actually have to. They do it through the priest. They find out from another community if they're enough generations far enough so they don't have inbreeding. That's how bad it is. So there's communities in Australia, outside of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Where's the other ones? Oregon, and here in Alaska, and various parts of Alaska. So we've got like Nikolaevsk, we got Vozhnenska. So I have friends in Vozhnenska, so my friend's telling me. He came over to the house, which actually, remember what I told you? I brought freaking salmon. I'm waiting to see how he's going to respond. If he's very uncouth and has no class, doesn't know that, when you go into a new place and people bring you things, you should open up and communicate, especially if you have a cell number and you already have a cell number. It might help you. You want to learn from the locals. Learn from the locals. If they're inviting, they're doing two things, which is they're testing you. They bring gifts. How do you respond to the gift? Are you responding in a very good human or a bad human? Bad human is ungrateful, stays remote. That tells me you're just here to shoot a freaking fake-ass homesteady show and then go back to Pennsylvania. And they're like, oh yeah, the drama of living in Alaska. We tried to make our homestead, but it was so hard on us. And I got 9 kids, and oh my God. Yeah, that's the bullshit we have with fucking kilchers. We'll talk about kilchers on my homestead channel. Not my homestead channel. Oh, no, not ever the homestead. But yeah, 5 acres and a moose. Yeah, go check out over there. I'm going to start making that more my news channel, where I talk about the real events, because that's the reason I'm in a homestead. A real homestead, which actually is a farm. What's a real homestead? I haven't seen a real homestead in this state. There are no homesteads. There are farms. There are ranches. There are people who have a little plot of land. I have a little plot of land. It's just perfect. As I talk with my significant other, we just talk about it. I look over at her and I say, we are so fucking lucky. I say that every night. Why do I say that? Because of the rest of the world. If all of you just poof, disappeared, we'd be fine. We'd have food. We'd have warmth. We'd have shelter. We'd have peace. There wouldn't be a war. There wouldn't be a bunch of idiots running around thinking they're getting something over on somebody else. Because that's what this is all about. This is about power. It's been about power. It's always been about power. It's never been about money. It's never been about wealth. Wealth, money, these are just tools. Just like the bankers are just foot soldiers. Peter Thiel is just a moron. He's a useful idiot. Yeah, Elon Musk, another useful idiot. Oh, but they're so intelligent. They're just so intelligent. Oh, yes. Yeah. Put me in a room with Elon. Let me fucking debrief him. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that's the politically correct term for interrogation. Or I was talking with my buddy who debriefed me when I came back from Vietnam at the Pentagon. And they were debriefing me. There's only one left, sad. Shoot, one died. Bob Hip. Man, Bob Hip. Marine. Badass motherfucker. Yeah, he died a year after I was interviewed when I came back from Vietnam in 1984. Yeah. So, think about that. What's it like to be in a Vietnamese prison for 11 months, being interrogated? How do you think that affects your psyche? Do you think it turns you into a mushroom? Like my co-prisoner, Richard Knight, the alcoholic, the treasure hunter? Or does it turn you into someone that the CIA would later freaking be interested in recruiting because you're squared away? You know what's happening in the world. You come back. You're kind of like getting your feet back, your land feet back again after being at sea for a long time, being tossed by heavy waves, interrogations, torture, psychological torture, physical torture. Yeah, they work together. They're not very effective, but they're very traumatizing, or they can be very clarifying. So when you look at what's happening here and you see what's happening in this world, You really understand why people are doing things and how they're doing things. And why, beating up on somebody physically, like, the stormtroopers will have to do if this becomes like World War II, and the Nazis and the communists, are all beating up on people to get them in line, all being led by the Rothschilds, and the rest Rothschilds being led by the cabal above them. Yeah, the original cabal. Because what is it? Now we've got another cabal called Dialogue and pansy-ass motherfucker Teal. The guy's a pansy-ass. I could eat him fucking in 10 seconds. I could make him disappear, Shoot. Yeah, read up on the Mono Blanco back in El Salvador. The White Hand. Yeah, people don't like talking about that shit. But you know what? Looking at it now, I wasn't very happy to know it was happening because it was actually counterproductive for what we were doing. Because when you're going and fighting communists, and then you got another group that is fighting communists, but then also saying, hey, we can freaking, just like the Phoenix program in Vietnam. The Phoenix program was actually very effective in Vietnam, but then people hijacked it, and then they started freaking murdering opponents, political opponents, or economic opponents, like business owners that they didn't want to compete with anymore. They would just put them on the list and say, oh, this guy's a communist sympathizer. And the guy either was captured or the guy was made to disappear. That's what the Mono Blanco was. So the Mono Blanco was, if you ended up seeing they would take a handprint. They would have paint and they would put a handprint on somebody's front door. And that guy who was in that house, or whoever was, quote, the communist sympathizer, if they weren't gone within 3 days, like out of the country, which sucked because they ended up going to frickin' Mission Street, San Francisco, which actually wasn't too bad for me because I was still working when I would come home. So I would go into the mission and I would gather intel. I would make friends with these people. Yeah, that's how you play the game. So then you would find out information about what area they came from, et cetera, et cetera. And because, hey, we're back in the States, so it's like, everybody's talking. This guy's like, he's with us. Yeah, he's one of our people. Because we had the Sandinistas. You know who the Sandinistas are. God, what was the most famous one? There's two. One was the mayor of New York, and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, Mr. Super Sandinista himself. Yeah. A couple times he ended up being in the crosshairs, and the guys who had the crosshairs on him were told, no, can't take him out. What would have happened to the world if Bernie Sanders never came back from Nicaragua? Huh? Or smuggling weapons to the FMLN in El Salvador. Yeah. Comunista. Who's now a millionaire. Wow. Comunista, millionaire. Michael Moore. Comunista, millionaire. Oh, who was Michael Moore when I was in Central America? Oh, he was the editor for Mother Jones. Oh, Mother Jones, the same ones who did a hit piece on me, trying to do a stolen valor on me with an Annapolis dropout. Oh, and so I will explain. So all you fuckers in your little freaking coffee group, was it the Foreign Intel Officers Association? That's where you guys get together and you talk with each other. All you little freaking analysts, you sit together and you talk about, when I was back in Vietnam, we were trying to find out what the Viet Cong were doing. Yeah. Okay. And you thought you knew what fucking El Salvador was all about. You didn't realize that El Salvador was Vietnam on steroids. See, this is the thing that kind of sucks. You know that old saying that, every generation fights the generation before it? I mean, it fights the war of the generation before it. Like, everybody was fighting in Vietnam was in their minds, fighting the war movies they watched as kids, or that they thought they were like their dads in World War II, fighting the Japanese. That's what they had in their minds when they were fighting in Vietnam. Or like the guys who were in Desert Storm, or the guys who were in GWAT, thought they were like their dads who fought in Vietnam, so they were fighting the Nam, so they were playing all the music from the Nam, yeah, that kind of stuff, And they were replaying the movies like Apocalypse Now and Platoon. Well, a lot of this stuff was fucking made up. in those movies because it's more dramatic when you make it up and you make it all like, oh, wow, this shit was happening. Could you imagine what would be happening if the stuff that was happening in Apocalypse Now and Platoon was real and commonplace throughout Vietnam? No. It would have been like the most extreme, like, if we're talking genocide, we're talking about like genocide on steroids. But guess what was happening in El Salvador? See, the guys in El Salvador who were fighting, they watch the same movies. And so they're fighting. I mean, that's why when I remember music from the war in Central America, I'm hearing like the 70s music, like KC and the Sunshine Band. I'm hearing freaking Bread. I mean, that's why I listen to Bread. But then at the same time, I'm hearing like Depeche Mode and Duran Duran. So we're jumping out of choppers and people. And we don't have MP3s back then. We had like little cassette players, Walkmans, and you could hook up your Walkmans into your earmuffs so you can listen to tunes just before you're coming off, and then you take them off, right? And we didn't wear helmets. I didn't wear fucking helmets. I never wore a helmet once. Oh, no, excuse me. I wore a helmet once. And that's when I knew we were fucking going to get hammered. And we did get hammered. It was a base overrun in San Miguel in July of 86. That's where I almost got really killed. One of the guys got killed at the corner. The other guy lost his arm. I almost lost my freaking leg. That's why I have a limp when I walk. That's why I wish I could run the way I used to be able to run. I love running. Can't do that. I have to walk. So again, I talk about, what are you willing to fight for? Shoot. I mean, a lot of you aren't even fucking sharing this channel. You won't even, G. Edward Griffin, it's like, whoa, you got to listen to this interview with G. Edward Griffin. We're going into stuff. We're talking about stuff in a manner from people who have been through this for years. It's how I was censored back in Central America when they were pushing the communist propaganda. They're trying to... People have no idea how pro-communist journalism was in Central America. But why? It wasn't because they were pushing communism. It's because they're pushing the New World Order. This is why I talk about in the interview with Griffin the idea that they are trying to make us more. We are now social. We are the Soviet Union now. And you are a Soviet. You're not an American anymore. You're a Soviet. You're just a better paid Soviet. You're actually a Soviet when it was still kind of Bolshevik, where they were throwing the money everywhere. Before they ran out of the money and the country was going downhill, and the only way it was being supported was through the money we were sending them to keep them going. And why were we sending the money? Yeah, our tax dollars all the way back in the 20s and 30s. Well, no, in the 30s and the 40s, and definitely during the war. Even in the 50s, when we were actually in a full-on, flat-out direct against the communists, against the Soviet Union, against the Chinese. Two fronts. It was in order to keep us on a level, at the same time changing society, where we were no longer individuals and we became the collective. Once you're part of the collective, you're a socialist. So we've been actually socialists since 1930s because you come on the money. You come on the dole. So instead of your work producing stuff that you could actually trade for something else, like real money, like gold and silver, you're trading it for trust and confidence in paper money that's being controlled by bankers. And the only reason the bankers are there is in order to control you. That's how it's being done. That's why you should be asking questions. How can I get off fiat currency? How can I have food and shelter and security without having to pay for it with fiat currency? If you'd like to know, I'm going to start talking about that stuff. But I think I'm going to start talking with people who actually want to pay me. So I'm going to see how I can do like a subscription channel where you pay me for my fucking time. Because I'm fed up of just giving the free stuff. So when I give free stuff, it's because I'm just going to chat with you. I'm just going to fucking chat. I'm fed up trying to get these people who freaking like, they got to put their time. I mean, Griffin put his time. I mean, how many more years does he have before he dies? Right? As I said, my dad died in 2012. I was there when he died. We can talk about that. What's it like when you're trying to resuscitate your father? And then after he dies, you spend the next 2 weeks going through all the shit that you went through mentally from having been in heavy fucking duty combat for 5 years. When I say, all you guys coming back for the GY, oh, well, we had the extension. We did I had to do 1 more year. We did 5 fucking years. My team and I, we did 5 years. Full-on combat. We go away for a month, come back. Then we had 2 months fighting. Every week we had an operation. All the planning, all the preparation. Think about that. How do you do that? The fucking military doesn't even do that. They just sit around and spend money. That's what it's about. Put people in. Put up a Pizza Hut. Put up a McDonald's. And a fob. And a fucking fob. That's why when I make the joke about the fobbits and you guys make the jokes about the fobbits to me, I get it. I fucking get it. I know what it's all about. So the guys who've never been in the military, never been paramilitary, they don't get it. But they think, oh, roo-rah, red, white, and blue. America! Really? You still say the thing when you're fucking in a shithole? Mm-hmm. Because that's where you're at right now. This country's in a fucking shithole. And it's because of people like you who fucking just sit back and you just watch the YouTube. Watch the YouTube. Yeah, watch it. Just fucking get drugged out, man, because that's what it is. Yeah. Oh, but I don't smoke. I don't smoke pot. I don't take opium. I don't take meth. Shit, if you took meth, maybe you'd fucking wake up until you fucking blew your brains out. Like this fucker that's up the street that's got the fucking dog. Yeah, my goose got, one of my mama goose got killed. I'm going to be talking about that on my 5 acres and a moose. So now I'm going to have to fucking create a freaking free fire zone all the way to the pond. So all I got to do is get on the porch and start blasting away if it's either a dog from the meth head up the road or it's a bear. It's a pretty big bite. I mean, I measured against one of my bears. I got a bear rug on the floor that I keeps my feet warm in the winter. If it's a black bear, I'll eat it. If it's a dog, I'll bury it. But that's the way I go, man. That's the way I roll. If you fuck with me, I put you under the ground. And you need to have that mentality because soon you're going to have to deal with it. Because they're either going to come into your house, steal, rape, kill you, or you're going to fucking kill them. We're going to get pushed against the wall. I said that on the show. Go watch the show. Because if you just have the attention span for what? Right now we're at 42 minutes. I'm going to finish out that story with my old believer because it really impacts it. Maybe I've said it before. I don't remember. So, here's the story of the Russians. Okay. Здравствуйте, мой друг. Это хорошо. Да, то. Это хорошо. Нехорошо. So, what happened to my friend? It's actually his grandfather. So his grandfather, this is when they were back in Russia. This is about 1920. So it took that long. They're about 25. Yeah, about 1925. So it took that long for the Bolsheviks to get out that far because, the old believers were far enough away. But the distance, kind of like me, I'm far enough away from D.C. I don't need to deal with the bullshit in D.C., which has taken over the 48. Lower 48. But they're trying to come in here. And they're bringing a bunch of Californians and a bunch of freaking Connecticut Yankees. A bunch of commies. Yeah, there ain't no Yankees in Connecticut anymore. Just a bunch of commies. Because you're all anti-gun and you freaking just let all that shit go. When you have a fucking mass shooting, you brought it on. Because you freaking just basically told these mass murderers where to go kill. Easy kills. It's like the bear goes after a fucking goose because it's an easy kill. He was actually, I bet you if it was a bear, it's because he's tracking. You saw the video of the mama moose with her twins. That's what I watch out for because the black bears are tracking. They smell them and they're going after the easy kill. But hey, if they run across a goose, they'll go for that too. But I chased after him. I could not get a good shot. And then he dropped the goose, and that's how I could tell absolutely how big he was. Big fucking fangs. So I don't go running out there with a shotgun anymore. I go, which is, for something a little bit smaller like a lynx. I go running out there with the freaking 8mm Mauser. That'll drop them. So anyway, my friend's grandfather, he's walking around on his property back in Russia. Ruskia, huh? And so these four guys come up and they say, hey, comrade, tovarich, who owns this land, huh? Who owns this land? And he says, I own this land. He says, how much land is it? So it's 160 acres. Yeah, 160 acres. Okay. So, very interesting. And so the guy is kind of like the leader, you know. I could picture him in mind because he wasn't, but I picture him like somebody out of Dr. Zhivago. Kind of like, you know, what was her, Katarina. Was it Katarina? That was the blonde, played by Christy. Go watch Dr. Zhivago. I'm telling everyone, go watch Dr. Zhivago. Yeah, it's free on YouTube. Yeah, watch that. That's a little bit more informed than some of this freaking bullshit you see about Bitcoin. Yeah, anybody who's pushing Bitcoin right now, let me flat out make it clear to you. Bitcoin was created by the CIA and the NSA. How do I know this? I know this. That's why I've never invested in Bitcoin. I never will. People are pushing you onto Bitcoin. They're fucking operators. They're operators for the people you don't want to have operating against you. They're trying to get you on Bitcoin. Because the quicker they can get you on digital, the quicker they can get you into fantasy land, the quicker you're on fantasy land, you might as well be fucking smoking some dope. Because you're fucking totally lost. And that's where they want you. They want you totally lost and stoned. And then you are totally in the Matrix. And you don't care. Like all the other people. Just like in the Matrix when they're little pods. Yeah, your home is your pod. And then they keep on giving you a little bit of food. A little bit of the liquid through the tubes. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. Your tube is your retirement check. Yeah, especially if you work for the government. That's why they've been pushing you to be on the government check. More people on the government check, and that's how they fucked us over. Because now, if you look at how many people actually produce in this country, as compared to how many people live off of the production of a small group, the pyramid that made this country great, right, which was large base of production and businesses owned by private citizens instead of what happened, which it flipped over, and now the biggest base of this country is government employees and a small bit of production, and it's all owned by corporations who are directing everything else. Yeah. So the Matrix is actually controlled by corporations, the corporations, of course. So that's why. I was always wondering why, when I went to corporate, from having worked with the government and in the government, why was it that I looked around, it's like, these are fucking government slugs. What is it? Why is corporations so fucked up? And why, when I was younger and I worked for a small business, we were making things and everybody was happy and we're getting paid. We're getting paid a lot of money, but we're happy. Why? Because it had not been bought up by the big corporation. But what are these companies always hoping? Oh, we start the company, especially in Silicon Valley. We start a company and then a bigger company will buy us and then we get out. That's how I got working over at AOL, Time Warner. That's right during the merger of Time Warner. That's when we were making so much freaking money. And everybody hated each other. They hated themselves. Road rage all the way up and down 280. Up and down 101. I'm surprised more people weren't blowing people away, just shooting at them from their driver's seat in their vehicles because they were just pissed off at the world. But they were making so much fucking money. That's the thing. You see more and more of these people say, oh, but wealthy people are happy. I go, really? If they're so happy, they wouldn't be trying to fuck over other people. Like people like Teal and all these other people who are fucking now running because now they know when people wake up, they're going to go and kill them. But they think because they went down to Patagonia that they're getting away. Yeah. Patagonia's already been fucked by the IMF. So, yeah, Ferfel, read his book. Just type in Google Ferfel, Ferfal. It's a nom de plume from this guy from Argentina. He writes about what it was like in Argentina, when they had their, quote, big depression, inflation. And it was caused by the IMF, because that's what the IMF is. It goes in, gives them money, lets these freaking thieves in charge steal all that money, go off to other countries. They did it to my mother's country of Ecuador. Fucked over Ecuador. Ecuador used to be a phenomenal place. Now Ecuador's fucked. Peru, fucked. Colombia, fucked. That's what they do. They come in and they. It's just like the Caucasians when the Europeans came to America and they said, "Oh, look at the little dangly things. Oh, look, sparkly things. Oh, give us your women. Give us your gold. Give us your land. Give us your people to be our slaves. And that's how they wiped out most of the Indians in the Caribbean. They turned them into slaves, but they didn't work as well and as strong and didn't have the fitness to work as slaves. And so that's why they started bringing blacks in. And to do what? To make sugar. What was the first big drug? Yeah. Jan talks about it being tobacco. It's not tobacco, man. It's fucking sugar. Sugar was the first drug. You get high on sugar, and you want more sugar. And the more sugar you get, the more you need it. And you're willing to pay anything. If you look at the consumption of sugar now, in contrast to it was when it was being mainly grown in sugarcane fields, now it's from corn and corn syrup. It's disgusting. So they've taken one thing and they've modified it more and more to enslave people more and more and to make people more and more sick. Because the more sick you are, they can get enough out of you up until the age of 25. And then after 25, 26, 27, by the time you start getting 30, then you start going downhill physically. If you weren't on that corn syrup, you'd be just like Griffin. You know, Griffin is healthy because of how he eats and how he lives. And he's still alive and he's still lucid. He can still see. In the same way that I have memories I can remember all the way to the age of 3. I remember the Tet Offensive of 1968. I remember the second offensive, which was the May Offensive, which was actually a bloodier offensive, but it wasn't covered in the press as much. And why? Because that's when the Viet Cong said, the North Vietnamese said, we're not going to try and get the people to come to our side, because that's what they were hoping was going to happen in Tet 68. So in the May Offensive, or Little Tet, we called it, that was in May, the May Offensive. They just went on a killing spree. And I got the full understanding of that, from my buddy Zaylen Grant, famous journalist from that time period. Married a doctor, model turned doctor from Paris, and he was living in the country for a long time. But I guess he's moved into Paris because he's gotten so old and he needs, can't be living on a farm. I can't imagine moving to a city. I will never move back into a city just because I know what a city is. A city is where you keep the slaves. And then when it gets really clear that they're going to have to start thinning people out, they'll start turning off the water, they'll start turning off the power, they'll start turning off your opportunity to even get out of there because you won't be able to buy fuel for your vehicles. And that'll be the end of it. You'll just be walking around and then you'll be scrounging. That's all. To create an apocalyptic event in an urban environment, that's all you got to do is turn those off. If you've never had blackouts, when I was a kid, we had blackouts. It was kind of fun when you're a kid. Because, you just got to worry about a little bit about the freezer, melting. Everything melting in the freezer. But that's about it. And the power always would come out, and you just took care of things. You go buy some ice, you go to another area. But see, you won't be able to go to another area to go get ice to keep your ice box going until the power comes back on again. And, man, that's the reason I'm not in a city. I'm going through my list right now in my mind. So we're back in Russia. The fucking Bolsheviks come up to my friend's grandfather, ask him. So now we're going to ask him a third time. Tovarich, whose land is this? He says, it's my land. It's 160 acres. And then the leader of this group and his men jumped my friend's grandfather and are beating the shit out of him. And they basically putting the cuffs on him. And he says, you don't understand. This is our land. And that's all he had to say. So, my friend's father and mother and the rest of the family, while the grandfather was on his way on a train to the Gulag, the beginnings of the Gulag, right? And spent 2 years in that Gulag. The family went and stayed with some neighbors for a couple of weeks, but even the family said, you can't stay with us. You can't stay with us. If you stay with us, they'll come after us. And they understood. So they ran to Manchuria, and that's where a lot of the old believers ran to. That's why you see them. They look just like Cossacks. That's what I was saying. So there were the Cossacks. These were like the ones sent out with the dogs by the Tsar to go and hunt down the old believers back in the day, right, when they were being ostracized with their dogs, and so they don't like dogs. But anyway, so my friend's family, they went to Manchuria, and they waited in Manchuria until the grandfather was released, and he made his way to Manchuria. And then they stayed in Manchuria until what happened? Mao Zedong took over. So in 48, 49, they're making a run out of Manchuria and out of China. And they made their way to, I'm trying to remember first, I think they made their way to Brazil first. And then from Brazil, there was a plea made what other countries they could go to, and then they went. And they kind of look like Mennonites, because I've seen Mennonites up in, towards Delta, up in the northern part of Alaska. But the men you automatically recognize because they don't cut their beards. They grow the beards long, kind of like the Sikhs who grow their hair long, because it's an identity thing. So, yeah, are you going to wait for the Bolsheviks to show up at your home and say, Tavares, whose property is this? And they go, no, you don't understand. It's our property. And that's really put across when you watch Dr. Zhivago. But not as violently as it happened to my friend's family. So, something for you folks to look forward to because you didn't fight. Congratulations. On that note, yeah, like I say, I'm done fucking doing the hard work for freaking getting freaking actual interviews with people worthwhile listening to and hearing the information they have, and you're not fucking sharing or pushing subscription or, all you gotta do, I showed you how to do it, is, you hit subscribe, and then you hit the bell, and then it gives you the options, and you hit all, so that every time there's a new show, it pops up. And then you come and you hit like, and you make a comment. For those of you who have the very few, the chosen few, guys like the chosen few from Korea. That's a totally other chosen few, right? That's my dad's generation. That's Griffin's generation. But since my dad was a Marine, I know the idea of the chosen few from the Chosin Reservoir. The guys were basically left to their own wits to get the hell out of there. Right? That's what it ends up. You get left to your own wits. So anyway, if you want to help your people, help your friends, share this. We'll see how this channel goes. But if you want to just zone out, I'm just going to start shooting more stuff, or I'm just going out and doing my thing, just like Homesteady and North to Alaska. And who else is in the neighborhood? Oh yeah, North of Normal. They just moved in from Michigan. What a joke. Oh, and the Kilchers. I'll start talking more about the Kilchers. Yeah. Yeah, because I was good friends with the Kilchers until I came out with my book, So You Want to Be Reality. And I talk about them in my Memories of Yule. The guy who was from a royal family, a very wealthy family. And that's the reason he was able to survive here until he started playing his little games with the locals. And, snidely whiplash on how to freaking get some property. The old homestead. I know the story about how they got that homestead. Oh, yeah. There's supposed to be a church on that property. I've never seen a church on that property. That was part of the deal. I'll give you the 800 fucking acres if you build a church on it, because that's what Yule said he would do. Yeah, for God. Yes. When you see the true mettle of a person, which sadly you don't really see unless you're in extreme combat, whether it's the combat of life, where you are challenged by things, or real combat. That's why I always describe war, real combat. When you've been in combat with your comrades and you've fought alongside them, you learn things about them that even their closest, loving, their wives never know. You see the true mettle of who they are. You see the true mettle of who they are. They either turn out to be cowards and they run and they're no longer on the team, or they stand alongside you and they stand alongside you because you know you're going to die. And I've been in a few of those experiences. Yeah, 3rd Brigade, San Miguel, July 1986. That was one of them. Those 2 other guys were with me at the corner. Yeah, I'll be talking about that. And I've got pictures because I'm working on that book right now. And I'll let you, we'll sit up in the office together because I'm going to start doing more at the office. I won't be down here because it's warmer. And I got to be at my office typing away. Got to finish that book because I'm fed up with keeping, it's that past 25 years. I'm legally allowed to talk about it. Nobody's told me I can't. And a lot of people say, hey, he was never with us. I go, okay. Thank God I took pictures when I was told not to take pictures. That's another thing you learn about the government. When they tell you to do things, take it with a grain of salt. Because a lot of times it's just to cover their fucking ass. But they're more than happy to let you fucking leave you blowing in the wind. Again, trust in the testing of metal. You see the metal of a person. So on that note, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Push the channel. Shoot, we might actually get above 1,000. I would love to get above 1,000. How many years have I been doing this channel? And I'm at what, 836 right now? Damn. And 200 views with Edward Griffin. God damn, people. You're telling me I'm wasting my fucking time. So if I am, hey, I got salmon to smoke. I can see the smoke coming off of my smoker. If you want to see that, come on over to 5 Acres and a Moose and subscribe over there. Like and subscribe over there. Shoot, I take you on a bear hunt. Freaking the first time I've been charged by a Kodiak brown bear. Freaking wild. You learn to keep your cool. That'll teach you how to keep your cool. Especially if you don't shoot the poor little guy. Poor little cubby. He was only 800 pounds and he was a cub. On that note, God bless. Watch your 6. Watch your 6 even more now because evidently it's going to get even worse. Because people aren't going to fight. You're too timid. Show me you're not timid. Adios.